you owe back taxes to the state of Illinois? Does it fit in a certain window the state's offering to allow you to pay that off with penalties and fees? And how does the state go about collecting due taxes outside of an amnesty program? Well, I chatted with the Illinois Department of Revenue Director, David Harris. It's right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can wake up with us each and every weekday morning. If you joined us last week, you saw the breakdown of things happening at the General Assembly fall veto session. I'd encourage you to go back and check out some of those videos. And we'll be talking more about that throughout the week because a lot happened. But wanted to get this information out there for you because this window for you, if you owe back taxes to the state of Illinois, is closing. How much is out there floating around and possibly able to be collected? Well, again, I chatted with David Harris, the director of the Illinois Department of Revenue, late last week during veto session, tucked in the hallway near the Lieutenant Governor's office. And we talked about what exactly the program is.
The tax amnesty program that was initiated by the legislature at the recommendation of the governor is a new tax amnesty program that runs from July 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2024. So if you have a tax debt that was incurred during those times, you are eligible to pay that tax debt without any penalty or interest. And that's a significant savings for taxpayers that might have a debt owed to the state of Illinois through the Department of Revenue.
Now, how much are we talking that the state is expected to collect from delinquent taxpayers? Harris laying those numbers out.
Well, I can tell you right now that as of today, we have collected roughly $82.5 million.
And from how many taxpayers would it be?
Well, it's hard to say exactly how many taxpayers. Corporations have paid the largest amount. The individual income taxpayers have paid the second largest amount. There are fewer corporation taxpayers than there are individual taxpayers. So it's hard to give you an exact number of how many taxpayers, but those are the two biggest categories, about $35 million and roughly 20-some million dollars from individuals.
So we're looking at a fair amount of money coming into the coffers, and the gross income that's expected could be a couple of $100 million.
The expectation for gross numbers is about $241 million. Now, that's gross. That gets divided. Some of these, as an example, if it's a sales tax liability, that gets shared with local governments. But $241 million gross, I believe that we are on track to certainly equal or exceed that number.
So what is that going to spell out for the state of Illinois, and why is this type of program important to get those tax dollars? Well, if you recall, and you were watching back during May, this was all part of the state's budget planning for the budget year that started June 1st, and that was to add additional revenue through amnesty programs to collect that back tax, that delinquent tax from individuals or corporations. So it's important to the state's coffers, Harris said.
It's important for the state's coffers. Number one, it's part of the budget for FY26, so that's built into the budget projections. But it accelerates revenue coming in. The argument could be made, well, what about that penalty and interest that you're foregoing? There's no guarantee that all of that would have been collected anyway, so this is an acceleration of revenue which is coming into the state.
So Harris saying it's important to get that money because, well, it's been budgeted. So they're looking to get $200+ million. And he says that they're going to exceed that with the program ending in a couple of weeks for individuals who have that owed tax. So you can obviously, find out more by contacting the Department of Revenue if you owe tax. But how do they go about collecting outside of the amnesty program? What kinds of enforcement mechanisms are there? Are they leaving money on the table and not having the enforcement follow through? Well, Harris says they do have the ability to go after back taxes outside of the amnesty program.
The state has a lot of authority, just as the IRS does, but we have a lot of authority to go after state tax debt. And that's another reason why taxpayers should take advantage of this amnesty program, because if that debt is paid, you don't have to worry about You don't have to worry about a bank levy. We can levy a bank account. You don't have to worry about, if you're a business, a sticker on your, let's say a retailer, a sticker on your front door saying the business cannot operate because they have tax debt. I mean, the collections efforts can be significant, and you want to avoid getting into that collection area.
So there's, he said, you don't want to have a business that has a placard on the front door saying that you're delinquent in your taxes, and you can't operate. But what about, those out-of-state businesses that may owe taxes? Harris talking about efforts to go after those individuals outside of the tax amnesty program to collect those taxes.
We have the ability to audit them, but it's harder to collect. In terms of local businesses, a retailer, when they file their certificate of registration with the Department of Revenue to do business in the state of Illinois, it's not just that business, it's the principals in the business. So if there's a tax debt for that business that isn't paid, that tax debt flows to the principals, and the principals then become liable for that tax debt.
So another reason why people should take advantage of it.
Take advantage. This is a great offer. Take advantage of it. It's easy to do. Now, one of the things is that the debt and the returns have to be filed in full by November the 17th. That's the cutoff date. So we're about halfway through the program right now, and we've had great response. And as I say, I think we will meet or exceed expectations.
He talks just a little bit more about the amnesty program and the importance to the state for that, and also for the taxpayers to get that owed money. Here's David Harris.
I just want to emphasize again how beneficial it is for any taxpayer, whether it's a business, corporation, or an individual, any taxpayer that has any debt to the state of Illinois, to come forward, pay the debt, get rid of that penalty and interest, because if you don't, the penalty and interest just continues to add up. And
that penalty and interests for the tax amnesty program will not be levied. So if you owe that tax, you can take part in the amnesty program. But while I had the Department of Revenue director there, I had to ask him about the end of legislative session, and in particular, just the collection of different tax proposals that there were. I mean, if you recall, at one point we were talking about Democrats proposing a billionaire's tax and also a amusement tax, which would have taxed like streaming services like Netflix, or you had the idea of a tax for retail delivery that was floated. You had the idea of increasing tolls, all to help pay for the state's regional transit authority up in the Chicagoland area. The sweeping of funds that could come from the interest on the gas tax road fund and pay off some of the fiscal cliff concerns for regional transit. So ultimately what they came down to was a ability for the regional transit authority to increase the sales tax, also some increases for tolls, and they were going to sweep the interest off the road fund to pay for mass transit. And these issues passed both chambers of the General Assembly, I believe in the Senate, by 4:30 in the morning. But before all of that was ultimately solidified, I asked David Harris, the Department of Revenue director. He used to be a legislator. He was a Republican state representative for years, and then was brought on by the Pritzker administration to be the director of the Illinois Department of Revenue. And he knows how to, legislate and get things across the finish line. But when it comes to certain types of tax proposals that really haven't been debated, and it's the last couple of days of veto session, and we find out what the proposals are, he says there's other ways to go about that as a legislator, working with the administration.
Hopefully when lawmakers have a tax idea, they will come to the Department of Revenue and say, okay, how can we put this in statute so that you all can administer it? Because if they pass a bill that we cannot administer, it doesn't help them, it doesn't help the state. We want to be able to be an assistance to not only the governor's office, but obviously to the General Assembly. So we haven't seen the specific elements yet that might be talked about in terms of what they're doing now. But before that step goes from an idea into actual statutory enactment, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to comment and say A or B needs to be changed so that we can actually administer what you want us to do.
And what they ultimately passed, again, Regional Transit Authority can increase sales taxes. They're going to skim money off of the road fund interest and put that towards mass transit. But I tell you, when you start looking more and more at the debate around the mass transit tax that ultimately did pass, we'll have to unpack that later this week here with Illinois in Focus Daily, because downstate Illinois a bit miffed as to what they see as funds being taken away from their roads. So we'll hear a lot more about taxes, but the tax amnesty program is underway. Comes up in about a couple of weeks when the cutoff date is. So if you owe back taxes, the Department of Revenue says, get a hold of them. It's a great deal, they say. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily, each and every weekday morning here for the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop.